If you have been online recently looking for a therapist, you have probably noticed the incredible number of options you have out there. People have become interested in becoming psychotherapists at a very, very steep velocity. People are becoming psychotherapists by going to institutes within 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, I don't really know, but they do become psychotherapists. And when you go online, you see all these options there and questions as to who these people are, what university they went to, what kind of training they have, what type of techniques from the so-called alphabet soup of psychotherapeutic techniques they know, the CBT, DBT, EFT, and so on. That's important. We value evidence-based practices. However, there is a question that has become out of fashion, that today is more relevant than ever. And this question is, what kind of experience, what kind of personal experience have you ever had with psychotherapy itself? It used to be, and I'm talking about the beginning of psychotherapy until not too long ago, maybe 30, 40 years ago, it was really important who your analyst, your therapist had been. It was an issue of lineage, almost pedigree. It wasn't good enough to say I went to the institute of such and so. It was more important, way more important, to say who your therapist had been, because that therapist had also had a therapist, and there was some lineage in terms of the approach, in terms of the depth that a person could get in psychotherapy. Now, eventually, this became a non-issue. Where you go, whether you have therapy or not, is not even talked about. Is something that we therapists became quite shy about. We don't talk even among ourselves if we see a therapist or not. That only if you're a friend. We're shy about it. However, nothing compares to the knowledge that we acquire through our own psychotherapy. Let's think about it. We therapists, we're not special. We're not different from the patients we treat. We have the same issues that they have. It's not the case that we were lucky enough, that we were blessed with the most incredible of life circumstances, with elite genetics, and therefore we never needed to do therapy. We therapists, like most sufferers, in fact, like all sufferers, we have always struggled with some kind of important issues. The divorce of our parents, grief, mental issues, mental health issues in our family of origin, separation, betrayal in a relationship, the loss of a parent, moving to a different country, being bullied at school, um, growing up with parents who expected too much from us or who were neglectful. We've all had the same issues. We have depression, anxiety, insecure attachment. We have parenting difficulties with our teenagers. It is not the case that because someone is a therapist, they've never confronted any of these issues, or that they did, but to some extent because you were healthier, or somehow you didn't need to do therapy. You never needed to do that which you are proposing. However, what if that's not the case? And there is a saying in my field that goes like this: no one can take another person farther than the place you've been yourself before. If you've never been to that place, you cannot take the person there. If you have never dealt with your own grief, You cannot help someone who's in deep grief without being, like they say, triggered. I believe that when it comes to being a therapist, we need to have a special kind of checkup. And that checkup cannot come from the institution, cannot be mandated. Instead, it must come from ourselves, from our personal identity as healers, and that we're ethical enough too to say, you know what, before I treat someone, I need to, have my own experience with this idea of psychotherapy. I believe that we therapists need to have that experience of knowing what it feels like to be a patient, and that it has tremendous, but tremendous impact in how effective we can be as clinicians. Um, it is only through this engagement, this personal engagement with the healing process, and not through academic training, that we acquire the greatest effectiveness as therapists. By being able, for example, to express vulnerable feelings towards a patient. Uh, and we do that because we have insight, and we can, you handle that in a way that can be healing as opposed to damaging to the patient. That means that we have to make sure that we have worked for conflicts, we have acquired significant insight about them. Of course, it doesn't mean that we're cured. Nobody's ever cured. Um, that's why I talk about healing, which is a different process. But we make sure so that we're not projecting, we're not being triggered. Because what is the other alternative? The other alternative is that you avoid stepping into a minefield of emotions because you're not feeling safe by doing that, and instead you're geared toward using cookie cutter methods. You're using handouts. You're using handbook psychotherapy manuals because that's safe. That doesn't get you into any kind of trouble because you're using things that are under the umbrella term of evidence-based practices. In my case, I strongly believe that because I work with people who are suffering, and I'm asking them to be vulnerable, I'm asking them to open up, I have to make sure that I do the same. I have to make sure that I have done the job that I am proposing to my patients to do. I believe in testimony. I believe that my job, and the job of any therapist for that matter, is to give testimony of what a therapeutic journey is, what it looks like. We're the pros, we're the professionals. And it is my job to show you that healing only ends when we stop living